Hi students, I wanted to go over the argument paper. So I'm going to go over the things that both came up the most and the things that came up and could give you the most points back if that's what you were to focus on in the revision. All right. So first of all, before I get into the nitty gritty, essay structure. Essay structure is honestly essential in essay writing. You don't have an essay without the essay structure. It's really essential that you can grasp hold of this at this point. Certainly, it will be very necessary in the final paper, the research paper, and it's very necessary to your success in that. And then also by the time whether you're going on to English 2 or English 4, the papers often get longer. They definitely get more complex. And you have to have your essay structure in place because if you don't, it's going to be just really difficult. So I want you to be set up for success and have that ready, for your success, right? So it's really important in English. If you are going on to English 4, that is usually writing a lot of argument papers. So you do need to have this skill down and ready to go for being successful in that class, which again, the issues tend to be more complex than they are even at this point, which are, can be fairly complex at this point as well. So that said, essay structure is the most important, and that is what is going to give you those points back give you the most points for your efforts, right? So first of all, introduction. You must have a clear introduction. And so if you follow the format that I gave you in the writer's workshop, that is likely to lead you down to the path to best success. So I mentioned to you the layers, the English lasagna, right? So follow that. And I wrote it down again here to just kind of have a review of that. You need to, number one, explain the issue. Don't assume that your reader is aware of the issue. Just picture your reader as an average, reasonably intelligent person that may not have specific knowledge about the issue, may not have been thinking about it, may not understand the complexities of the issue, right? So, of course, you have a professor reading reading it. They're a stand-in for that person, right? So you've got to show awareness of audience. That's a really important term. Because you've got to show awareness that you are not writing this just for yourself, but for, again, an average person to read it and understand the issue, understand both sides, and understand your clear idea, right? So in order to do that, number one, explain the issue to them. So, for example, if you were one of the issues that you could have written about that was on the list of topic ideas that I don't believe that no one chose this time, was whether vending machines should be allowed in public schools, right? So if that is what you were writing about, you would explain this issue of vending machines in public schools. You would not assume the reader knows. You might explain how prevalent they are in public schools, whether, and maybe at what grade level, whether it's middle school, elementary school, or high school, right? And you would explain that issue. And maybe what's in the vending machines. Is it mainly sodas and candy bars? Are there some healthy options? Whatever it is, you're really going to explain this issue of the vending machines in public schools. If you know something and if it pertains to your point about what the money is used for, it doesn't help the school. Is it just, for profit for the company that is bringing in the machines? Whatever it is. But you need to explain this issue. You also need to explain the controversy, all right? So don't assume your reader knows. You need to show that you understand both sides. So you are explaining those in favor of having vending machines in public schools and those against having vending machines in public schools. You need to explain this neutrally. You are not arguing at this point. You're not really making your point. You need to show that you understand both sides that you are an intelligent and reasonable person that knows the issue, that understands the issue. You need to show that you have a spirit of reason and a spirit of goodwill. So you must understand the issue yourself and then explain it clearly to the reader, both sides neutral. Okay? Number 3, you then need to, once you have explained the issue and explained the controversy, then you need to start explaining your idea about the issue. So what I call turning the car, right? So you start transitioning to your idea. You must explain your idea to the reader. You must explain it clearly, and you must explain it before the thesis statement. The thesis statement should not come as a shock to the reader. It should be like, whoa. It should not be like, whoa, I didn't see that coming, right? I mean, like, you're leading them on the path. So every sentence is leading in a certain direction, right? For clarity. All right, and then lastly, you need your thesis statement, which of course is your topic plus your idea about your topic. So your topic, the example I'm giving now is vending machines and whether they should be allowed in public schools. That topic has to be in the thesis if that is what the paper is about. And then, of course, your idea about that topic, what you are advising, what you want to happen, your view. Okay? So you must have all these parts. So if you do all that, you're going to have approximately 6 to 9 sentences in your introduction. If you don't have a minimum of 6 sentences, you are missing something. You are missing a layer. So what you would need to do is go back, look at this, review the writer's workshop for the paper, because I give you a sample intro, and you can model it on that. If you can't access it still through Canvas, you can go to my YouTube page, which is, if you go to YouTube, just type in the search Kelly Ryan and put in like writer's workshop argument paper. It should come up. It has when I did that. All right, so you can even view the writer's workshop again for a model for that example of how to do the intro, right? So make sure you explain the issue first. Make sure you're explaining the controversy, both sides. Make sure that you are giving your clear ideas before the thesis, and make sure you have a clear thesis statement, pretty much in that order, right? Things should not be all out of order, because that's confusing for the reader. If you start arguing about the issue and the reader doesn't even know what the issue is about, that is extremely confusing, and you are unlikely to convince your reader. You're likely to just confuse them, and that's not effective, right? So the other thing is it has to flow coherently and cohesively. It all should come together. It shouldn't be like, so you're explaining both sides, and then you start transitioning to your idea, and then you have your idea, but you're not jumping around making different points all over the place that the reader can't follow. That's just very confusing, right? So it all needs to flow. Every sentence leads to the next one clearly and logically, right? So the other thing to keep in mind is keep your focus on the topic at hand. So if what you chose was vending machines in public schools, you have to keep a tight focus on that topic. You can't get distracted by side issues. So for example, let's say with the vending machines in public schools, one of your topic sentences is going to be on that by, say, not allowing vending machines to be in public schools, that perhaps you are making a point that that students, this would not bringing these vending machines in would be better for students' health. Okay, that's one of your points. It's the overall topic, vending machines in public schools, and that could be one of your topic sentences, one of your reasons, right? Let's say that you have a real passion for nutrition and healthy eating, right? That's great. And you're thinking, wow, if we could just get these vending machines out of the public schools, that'd be a great way for children to eat healthier. And I'm so passionate about healthy eating. That's awesome, right? But if you're not careful, that passion for healthy eating can take over like everything else, and all of a sudden you're not writing about vending machines anymore. You're just writing about healthy eating. It's something to watch for. We're all human, right? Our minds can go in different directions, but we must be disciplined about it at this level, right? So we must be disciplined about our topics. So if your topic is vending machines in public schools, you have to keep a tight focus on that. You cannot bleed over into all of a sudden all you're talking about is healthy eating, or primarily what you're talking about is healthy eating, and you are no longer talking about vending machines in public schools. The idea of children's health has to support the thesis about your idea about the topic, which is vending machines in public schools. This is the example I'm working with here, right? It can't flip-flop around to where you are just talking about these major issues with healthy eating and kids are eating very unhealthy and we need to get the kids back to eating healthy. And yeah, but what happened to vending machines, right? The reader might be just, just confused at why this is going in all these different directions. So one way to kind of keep that tight rein is just keep the focus. Remind yourself, maybe write it on a poster note, vending machines. That's like, and I'm not saying obviously you need to write about the topic that you chose, right? I'm just using this as an example because no one picked it, right? I don't want to spotlight anyone, right? So, because this is a prevalent issue. So there is an author and speaker by the name of Elanya Von Zant. She's currently has a show, at least last I knew it was on there, on the Oprah Winfrey Network, which is Elanya Fix My Life, right? So I've seen her speak, and she one of the things I've seen her say is keep the main thing the main thing. And when the reference is for her, she's helping people to deal with like different family conflicts, and people will be trying to focus on one issue and then they're upset and they start talking about some other issue of conflict, and it gets very confusing. How does this pertain to our argument paper? Because we tend to do the same thing. We want to talk about vending machines in public schools, but then we kind of flip-flop over into healthy eating, and then we're just talking about healthy eating and we're really on fire about that, and maybe that leads to something else, right? So we need to keep the main thing, as Ms. Von Zant would say, right? And so the main thing is your topic. So if it's about vending machines in public schools, keep a tight focus on it. Don't let yourself get sidetracked into something else as your main issue. So explain the issue first, right? So for example, if you right here started talking about a sideline issue instead of explaining the issue of the vending machines, that could be confusing to the reader. So just make sure that you are keeping a very tight focus on the main topic, all right? So that said, it does need to go pretty much in that order. It's very confusing if things start flip-flopping around. If you start arguing the point before you've explained it, the reader doesn't have a clear idea of the issue and is likely to have trouble following your point. Thesis, I'm going to talk more specifically about the thesis statement next, but the thesis statement logically needs to be at the end. Your thesis statement cannot be at the beginning. It doesn't make sense in this context, because how can you tell them what your idea about the issue is in a convincing way if they don't even know what the issue is and they don't even understand what's happening with this issue? That doesn't really add any clarity to the whole argument, right? So you need to explain the issue first, explain the controversy, explain your idea, and then give your thesis. Okay, so if that's gotten a bit off track, then just go back in that order. All right, so then the next point is the thesis statement. So the thesis statement, again, that's got to be topic plus idea about topic, right? I'm going to write that down. So always, this is a review, right? Thesis equals topic plus idea about topic. So, meaning your topic that you're writing about needs to be in your thesis statement. So if you're writing about vending machines and whether they should be in public schools, you need to give that topic. That topic of vending machines has to be in the thesis statement. If you're writing, again, I'm going to use that same example. If your thesis statement for this example is children should eat healthier, no, that doesn't work. That is like, that didn't work at all because your topic isn't there, which is vending machines and whether they should be in public schools, right? So things have gone awry, right? So that's keep the main thing, right? So the topic has got to be in that thesis, plus your idea about the topic. Vending machines should not be in public schools in order to, benefit our children in several key ways. There you go. I just gave you a sample thesis for an argument paper that's off the top of my head, but it's kind of a standard way. If you can't think, there are ways to do it more specifically. But all right, but here's my gift. Fill in the blank with your topic, right? But vending machines should, let's do the flip side. Vending machines should be available in public schools to benefit students in several key ways, or for several key reasons, or something like that, right? You can develop the reasons in your essay. So if you have trouble with these statements, I just gave you a model. It's better to use a model and then get those training wheels and use them, and then let them fall off when you don't need them anymore, right? But you've got to have the topic, and you've got to have your idea in the thesis. The thesis statement is your big idea for the paper. Remember what I talked about Clifford, the big red dog, and the big idea, right? So it's your big idea for the whole paper, is the controlling idea for your paper. It cannot be a fact. It's an idea. So it would not be, for example, vending machines were in most of the schools where I grew up. Okay, well, that's a fact, right? We can go check that out. We can check out the schools you went to and see if there were vending machines there when you were there. That's a fact. Interesting, not your thesis, though. It's not an idea. It's a fact. So that doesn't work. Ask yourself, is this a fact or is this opinion? If it's a fact, it can be verified, right? It needs to be an idea. Someone should be able to disagree with it. It should be a clear idea, a focused idea that you have clear reasons that you can develop to support and make a point about. And it has to be about your topic, right? So topic plus idea is your thesis, all right? All right, fine. Let's go into, I do want to make one other point about the thesis statement. We've discussed this before, and it's in chapter 2, Steps to Writing Well, which is about thesis statements. So it'd be great to, review that chapter, especially if you're having a little trouble with the thesis statement still. Is that if you choose to do an essay map thesis, which is a very effective point where you list your 3 reasons right in your thesis. Vending machines should not be allowed in public schools in order to benefit children's health, teach them good spending habits, and can't think of the other one right now. But I just can't grasp it out of the air right now. But my point is, you give your 3 reasons in the thesis. That's called an essay map thesis. Very effective. It just depends on how you want to structure it, and sometimes it just comes together in that way versus another way. If you do that, though, the 3 points that you go over, you have to go over in your body paragraphs in order. So if your first point you go over in the thesis statement is about benefiting children's health, first body paragraph, first topic sentence is about benefiting children's health. The second one you go over is about teaching children good spending habits. Second topic sentence, teaching children good spending habits. So they should match. Everything, and a lot of essay writing is matching. It's a match game, seriously. So everything has to match up. And if it matches up, that's what's called cohesive. That you have a cohesive essay. It needs to be cohesive. It needs to match up. If you have all these different ideas going in different directions, that is not a cohesive essay. That's confusion, right? So we can't do that. We need cohesion. So one way to do that, again, an essay map thesis is effective if you want to do it that way. It's not the only way. But if you do that, everything has to match. First point in thesis is first topic sentence. Second point in thesis, second topic sentence. Third point in thesis, third topic sentence, etc. Okay? All right. So I also wanted to go over transition words and phrases. So overall, I think these are going better. Much improvement in that area. But if you are forgetting about them, they're really important, as I've used sort of that freeway imagery where you're merging the reader onto the freeway from the frontage road, right? They're really important because you merge your reader into your next point. It also, as a writer, it can keep you on track to write your topic sentence and keep you on track with that. So if you're someone that struggles with topic sentences, it can be one way of helping yourself to stay on track with that is to, you know, make sure you've got your transition words and phrases. So in the writers workshops, I always use first, second, and finally. That's sort of my signature writers workshop way of doing it, and you can have that. You can use that on every essay you ever write, and you know what? It'll be effective. It's traditional, and it's traditional because it works. But you can also mix it up. You can do next, furthermore. In addition, Steps to Writing Well has in chapter 4, off the top of my head, the chapter on body paragraph development she has them in a nice little box where there's several transition words, and you can just choose which one works for you. It does have to make sense though. I mean, so you have to read over it and make sure it makes sense. So if you just gave a contrasting opinion because you were working with the opposition, and then you said furthermore, and the point you just made in the last sentence of the last paragraph was an opposition view, and then you're saying furthermore, well, that doesn't really make sense because you're not giving a further point for the opposition, right? I mean, like, so read it over and make sure there's a logical flow of ideas, all right? But just if you've forgotten them, add them in. If I said you need transition words, then you need to add those in, all right? So then we come to topic sentences. Topic sentences. So I've said before, topic sentences are, it might be hard to see this here, so I'm going to try to move it without, okay, I should have just left well enough alone here. Okay, hold that thought. I play with the board here. Oh, come on, this easel. I miss my whiteboard. Okay, I don't know if this is working or not. No. Okay, one last time and then I'm going to do something different with it. Oh, I guess it'll have to do. Sorry. All right, topic sentences. At any rate, topic sentences, I've said before, are the building blocks of essays. They are the building blocks of essays. And without topic sentences, you don't have an essay, honestly. You certainly don't have a college essay. So you don't have an essay, period, end of story. You have a document with writing on it, maybe a response, but you don't have an essay. So you must have topic sentences. Topic sentences, that's the main idea of the paragraph. It has to support the thesis. So again, they can be reasons, right? So if you think, I'm going to go back to that same example, that vending machines should not be allowed in public schools, then you need, one way of thinking of it is you need 3 reasons that can be true, not 3 facts. You can have facts in your essay, but those aren't topic sentences, just like a thesis can't be a fact, right? But it's a reason, it's a clear reason. What are 3 reasons? That's one way that works for me to have what I call a plan of attack for an essay. What's my thesis? And what are my 3 reasons that I think that? Those 3 reasons turn into your topic sentences. So again, what I came up with off the top of my head for this one was, benefiting children's health, children's spending habits, and there's another one out there, just can't think of it. But at any rate, you think of your 3 reasons, right? And then that is what the whole paragraph is about. So you have to check your work. You have to make sure the whole paragraph is about, say, benefiting children's health, right? And that you haven't gone on to another issue, right? So you've got to have topic sentences. If you're having trouble with topic sentences, do review the body paragraph chapter in Steps to Writing Well. There's a lot of reading and exercises that you can look at. There's some that we didn't do, some that we did that you can look at again. But they're a lot of really good information in that book, which is why I really like it. But in addition to that, Solano College does have tutoring. It's online now, so there are resources on the website that can direct you to that. But if you're having trouble locating that, please contact me. I will do my best to point you in the right direction for that, maybe having that one-on-one support, and sometimes hearing it in a different way, maybe it's a different phrasing or something than I use, that might just, connect with you in a way that really works for you. So it's good to get different perspectives and different ways of getting to the same thing. but you must have topic sentences. If you do not have topic sentences, you don't have an essay. There is no possibility you can have an A on an essay without topic sentences, right? There is no possibility of having a B on a paper without topic sentences. You're not even looking at a high C because you don't have an essay. So it is, it may not even be a C. I mean, it really just, you've got to have topic sentences. I cannot say this enough, right? So one clear idea, a reason that supports your big idea thesis per paragraph. Think of the categories like I talked about in the directional process essay, right? Every paragraph is a category. Every paragraph is a clear idea. Every clear body paragraph could be a reason that you think what you think in your thesis, okay? But it has to be one idea per paragraph. And it has to be idea. It cannot be a fact. All right, so you must have a clear topic sentence, all right? Body paragraph development. So we're, again, topic sentences, we've gone over this before. Technically, they can be in different places in the paragraph. But you know what? If you're struggling with topic sentences, put it first, because then you can check off and know it's there. You've got to know how to build the structure before you can play around with the structure. So just first, you know, vending machine, and it has to have a direct line to your thesis. It should be directly evident that this reason connects with your thesis, right? So first, vending machines should not be allowed in public schools in order to help children to be healthier. Fine, right? That's a reason. Is it a fact? No. I mean, like, other people might totally disagree and think that you can put healthy things in healthy products in vending machines, and that would be, you know, very convenient for, you know, students, right? So it's not a fact, it's an idea. So then primary support means you need to explain that. Again, think of your audience. They haven't been thinking about the issue. They're not thinking about the issue like you are, perhaps. They're just not thinking about the issue. You have to explain it. So I'm going to flippity-doo-dah this over and hope it holds, right? All right. So first you have, so in your body paragraph, so let's say we're going with first, right? Then we have our topic sentence, okay? Then we have what is called primary support. I tend to call it the explanation. Call it either one. So I'm going to call it right now primary support, explanation. What I mean by explanation is you have to explain that topic sentence. Don't assume your reader knows all about it, right? Sometimes what we tend to do is not explain the topic sentence. We tend to go on to another point, either about the topic sentence, against the topic sentence, some other idea, right? You don't want to do that. You need to explain the topic sentence. You need to explain it clearly to them so they understand. So, I mean, how is it that, for example, having vending machines in public schools, or not, I just said not, well, I said both sides. So not having vending machines in public schools, not allowing that, could benefit children's health. Well, I might explain that primary support, explanation, that vending machines have traditionally had very unhealthy snacks of them, such as candy bars, sodas, chips, and very few have any healthy options. In order to protect children's health, it would be better to remove the temptation of these unhealthy snacks so that the healthy choices they have available from the cafeteria or what they brought from their home would be more likely for them to eat those lunches and snacks, okay? Something like that. I'm explaining this. I'm not assuming the reader knows. You've got to keep the focus on the topic sentence. You can't go on to a new point. Sometimes there's a tendency to go, okay, I'm going to tell about that, then I'm going to tell this other issue and this other issue and this other issue. No. That's super confusing. Explain it, okay? So explain this. Why? How? Right? So explain that. Then you need to give what's called secondary support. Secondary support is a specific example Okay, a specific example. And it's really the best if you can use a signal phrase like, for example, so I told about why that vending machines should not be allowed in public schools in order to preserve the health of our children. That's my first reason, right? Then I explain why that is the case, because the snacks that are available in the vending machines tend to be very unhealthy, and having these unhealthy, tempting snacks around can contribute to children eating those snacks instead of the lunch they brought from home or what's available in the cafeteria and things like that, right? Then I need a specific example or evidence of that. So if you write on a post-it note the phrase for example, you could also use for instance specifically, but you need a signal phrase. For example, if you use that every time, that would work, right? So it helps the reader to know example coming up, example coming up. It helps you to remember to add the example, for example. And then you could give the very specific snacks that are available in vending machines. For example, at the most recent vending machine that I saw Hershey bars, I saw, I don't know, some Lay's potato chips, I saw, whatever it was, Coke, Pepsi, and Mountain Dew, or whatever it is, right? So you give, these types of things were available, and there was only one selection of a granola bar, and it was all out, and, there were none other available, or something like that, right? No other healthy choices were available. That is a specific example. Or you could say, for example, when I was a student, when I was in 6th grade, I was very often tempted by the vending machines that were in my school. And so by the time I'd eaten my candy bars and my potato chips, by the time I got to my lunch that my mom made for me, I really didn't eat it. Instead I filled up on candy bars and potato chips, right? So that's a specific example, a little story, I like to say, right? You need to convince your reader as if you are in a court of law and you are trying to convince a jury or a judge about your client. They're not going to be convinced if you just sort of give them vague reasonings and don't give them any evidence. You have to give them the evidence, okay? So layers, okay? You've got to have all your layers. If you're missing some layers, you need to go back. The other thing is one idea per paragraph, one topic sentence. Definitely only one topic sentence is one idea in the sentence, but really one idea in the paragraph. That's it. So if I have gone and said you have several ideas in the paragraph, sometimes I try to number them for you so that you can see where to break the paragraph, that you could use these different ideas perhaps, but they can't be in the same paragraph. So I might have idea number 1, idea number 2, idea number 3, so you can see what I'm talking about the ideas and how there should be one per paragraph, but there are several. They could each get their own paragraph, okay? So if that's the case, that's why I've done that. All right, so let's move on. So topic sentences, my easel is having all sorts of issues again, so I'm going to try to fix it. And I really missed my whiteboard, but all right, let's try this again. Come on, easel. Okay, fine. All right, so now we have, we talked about secondary support, we talked about paragraph development, so cohesion, again, we talked about cohesion. It all needs to be cohesive. It needs to all match up, right? We're going to go with our layers. We're not going to be bouncing off different ideas in the same paragraph, and etc. All right? So next is avoid vague generalities. What are vague generalities? Vague generalities are these wide, sweeping statements that sound like they need to be on a bumper sticker. Well, if you get a job writing bumper stickers, good for you. Or maybe they are posting on social media or something like that. Yeah, well, more power to you, right? But don't put it in your paper. Seriously, that is just utter nonsense. So what are they? What are an example of vague generalities? So if only we could remove these pesky vending machines from public schools, all would be happy and the world would be at peace. Seriously, that makes no sense. That is just utter nonsense. We are not here to write nonsense. This is a college. We are here to deal with the complexities of the issue. We are not here to write vague generalities, right? So that you don't have any evidence for what will happen. That's another aspect of that. Um, and you have to go with the evidence of what you can support, right? But big sweeping statements like that, that sound like they belong on a bumper sticker, need to be left with the bumper stickers. That they need to be uh, in your rear view mirror. I'm using a lot of car imagery here, but they need to be deleted from that paper immediately. That is, it's nonsense. We're not here to write nonsense. So you want to avoid that. You want to completely avoid that. Sometimes I think it comes from we just are struggling for words and we don't know what to say and we're tired and that's what pops into our head, and that's human and it's understandable, but we need to do like emergency surgery to get those vague generalities out. So again, just this like wide sweeping statements that are very simplistic in nature and just they're nonsense, right? I mean, like that you need to. These issues are complex, and you must deal with the complexity of the issue. Okay, so instead of making these wide sweeping generalities, we do need to avoid that. All right, so avoid vague generalities. Similarly, but slightly different, you want to avoid absolute phrasing. So absolute phrasing is everyone does this, or no one does this, or this will happen. No, that's absolute phrasing, and you can't support that. No one can support that because you don't have evidence for what everyone does. So if, for example, if you're saying, we need to get these vending machines out of public schools because no one likes these unhealthy snacks anymore. That's not true. I mean, like, what do you mean no one likes those unhealthy snacks? I mean, there's no one in the entire world that's going to eat a Hershey bar ever again. That's nonsense, right? You can't support that, right? That's ridiculous. I mean, so people are individuals and people have a variety of experiences and variety of likes, a variety of dislikes. You're not going to find that everyone does this thing or everyone does that thing or whatever, right? So you need to have your phrasing allow for that variance of experience. You need to allow your phrasing to deal with the complexity of the issue. So you don't want to say that, no one eats these unhealthy snacks anymore. You could say, as many in the United States have become more aware of the benefits of healthy eating, many parents have vocalized their support for removing the vending machines from public schools. Fine. And then explain it and then give your evidence for that, right? But that would be many parents have, right? Not just, everyone. Similarly, you want to avoid saying this will happen. Like, if we do this, this will happen. If we remove the vending machines from public schools, children will be healthier. I don't know. Maybe they were, maybe they won't. Really? There's, like, in every case, every single child that has the vending machine no longer in the school, they're going to be just blossoming with good health. They'll never get sick again. There'll be no children having terrible illnesses. There'll be no children getting a cold or the flu. No, that's nonsense. Yeah, the word of the day, right? But no, we need to allow for individual variances that we cannot control, right? So unfortunately, there are children that get terrible diseases, and whether or not they're eating healthy food, or whether or not they're eating these vending machine snacks, or they're not eating vending machines, it can happen, right? A child could still get a cold. A child could still get the flu, or whatever it is, even if they are not eating vending machine snacks, right? So we could say, we can say can, this can lead to, this can contribute to. We could say this will likely even happen, but not this will happen, right? You cannot predict the future. You are not there with your crystal ball, and neither am I, right? I mean, so we have to allow for variance, right? So you might think, well, if I say that, does it not sound strong enough? Like, it sounds like I'm not really strong in my opinion. No, it doesn't. It just sounds like you're a reasonable person who understands the complexity of the issue. Okay? All right, so here we go. So we've got avoid absolute phrasing, complexity of the issue, which I talked to. All of these issues are complex, so we need to address the complexity of the issue again. So it's not just kind of cardboard, right? We need to really they're varied and complex, and we need to embrace that complexity of the issue. The other thing I meant to talk about when I talked about vague generalities was cliches. Cliches are similar to vague generalities, but I talked about this earlier in the semester, different video, but they're overused phrases they've been overused so many times that they don't really have original meaning at this point. They're just kind of ho-hum. I used to think they were kind of cute when I was a student, but I was corrected of my ways, right? I used to think they were clever, but they're just really unclear sometimes. A lot of times cliches have geographical context or generational context or cultural context, and so they could be unclear to someone that speaks English but lives in a different part of the world, or speaks English but is of a different generation than you. And they're just kind of ho-hum, kind of, just not clear phrasing. So, things like phrases like, oh, I did really well on that test. I really knocked it out of the park. Well, that's a baseball reference. That tends to be a cliche here in this country. But if you were in a different area of the world where baseball wasn't really a popular sport, you might not get that reference, and you might think they're actually talking about parks, and it wouldn't make sense according to what the topic was. So you would want to avoid that. They're also just like overused phrases. So, again, if it sounds like a bumper sticker, probably a bad idea. If you've heard the phrase a lot in context with the subject, that's probably a cliche. It's something that people tend to be just really gung-ho about. Yeah, as far as that phrase is what I'm talking about. People can be gung-ho about any topic, but I can't think of one in context of vending machines right now. But I think you see what I mean, right? So that it's just an overused phrase. And obviously, I've given everyone notes and the specific corrections. So if it says in the corrections, this is a cliche or something like that, then you want to change that into phrase it more directly, just originally, your original words. What are you really saying here? Instead of I knocked it out of the park, I did very well on this test. And when I first had to change my phrasing with that, I had to really think about it. I had to really think, say it directly, is what I used to tell myself, because my mind would go to those little cliches I thought were so cute, but were very unclear. All right, so avoid those. And then opposition, I want to talk about that. So the opposition, you do need to, so in your intro, you need to mention what the other side is. Whatever point, everything has to match up, remember? So whatever point you bring up in the intro about the opposition, that's the point you need to address in the body of your essay. So only address points that you brought up in the introduction. It might just be one. That's fine. One solid point to refute is fine. You don't need 10. But anything that's in the intro should be in the body of the essay. So just, one is fine. But whatever it is, you've got to, address it. So you're not supporting it. You are not supporting one way and then supporting a different way. That is not cohesive, right? You need to support your thesis. So that's why I'd advised in the writer's workshop to say something like, while some argue that vending machines are very convenient for students who may have forgotten their lunch or whatever. But that's not you saying that. While some may argue, while opponents of this view may argue, right? That sort of thing. So you're phrasing it as them, and you treat it seriously. You explain their view, okay? So explain their view so the reader understands it, and then you counter it logically. You treat it seriously. You do not trivialize their view, or try to put them down or put it down. You treat it seriously, but then you explain how your view takes precedence, that yes, these vending machines are very convenient and they can be handy if children have forgotten their lunch. However, the cost to our students' health is too much to risk, perhaps. And then you have to have evidence. So you have to have evidence for refuting the opposition. You are refuting them. You are countering it. You are not supporting it. However, you are also not annihilating them. So you are not, they are not your enemy. They are just a person with a different view on the topic. You must treat them with a spirit of goodwill. All right, so that is really, really key. This is not an angry rant. This is an intellectual exercise, and I will say more about that in just a minute, but this is really important to get a hold of when you are dealing with the opposition. All right, very good. So opposition, you must, however, address the opposition. You don't want to write the whole paper and as if no one could ever disagree with this idea, because that's the whole point, right, of the argument paper, is that there are more than one ways of thinking about the issue. Okay, we dealt with that. Okay, again, I have here stay on topic. Sometimes when we get to the middle of the paper, we start veering off on some other direction, whether we're either start supporting a different point of view, or we're just veering off on side issues, which is called a red tangent. Red herring, I'm sorry, a tangent, red herring fallacy, actually, where we're going off on a side issue. You don't want to do that. So just, I really suggest writing the main topic on a Post-it note and putting it on your computer or putting it on your paper or something where you can see it. So I'm like, I got to keep on vending machines. I can't get off on these other side streets, right? So keep the main thing the main thing. All right, so stay on topic. No you in essays. So the word you, the line through it. It was, remember I said it was okay in the directional process essay, because in that essay you are giving specific directions to your reader, and then you put the cookies in the oven and you do this. That was okay. That's that format. It's the only format that it's acceptable to write the word you in an essay. So not okay otherwise, right? So you need to change that. I did say it was okay to use the word I in the essay. That is fine. It's okay to use I. But it depends on the situation. The research paper, it is not okay to use the word I. That is just not done. But you can, if you're talking about the universal human experience, you can say one. Or you rephrase the sentence just to not have to say you or I or one. But you can use, when one walks by vending machines, you know, that sort of thing, right? That's like the universal human experience. Okay, so there's all of that. We have stay on topic. All right, so let's see if there's anything else. That looks like that was the major play. Oh, I do want to, there is one other issue that I thought I had written down here. Oh, there are two others. I want to talk about the conclusion, but before I get to that, if you use sources, or if you did and you're working with revising, or you I don't know, if you're using sources for the argument paper, it was an option, and I said it could help you to prepare for the research paper. You cannot let those sources run the show. The writing needs to be you. It needs to be clear that it's your idea, right? Your thesis, your clear ideas for the intro, your topic sentences, your writing. All the research does is it supplements that. It is the quote that is the perfect evidence, right? It is the statistic that supports your idea, right? It cannot run the show. Okay, so if your evidence is just a compilation of facts or quotes or something from the internet, and they're all sort of running together, I don't know what that is, but it's not an essay, really. It's because the essay is written by you, and that needs to come across loud and clear. So that can be very confusing and unclear, and you need to make sure that doesn't happen. So if you're revising this paper, really important to make sure that doesn't happen. And as you get ready for the research paper, really important to make sure that doesn't happen. I am going to say one more thing about that, which I've mentioned in the overview for the research paper, but it may come up if you used sources for the argument paper. If you are using evidence as your support, as your example from research, please set up your quote. So something like, according to whomever, right? And then you explain. You write a sentence of your own explaining the quote and how it connects to your topic sentence. That's you. then you give the quote, then you cite. Okay, in that order. I shouldn't just see a whole bunch of citations and I'm like, where'd that come from? Who? It's like they dropped out of the sky, these citations, right? No, that's not even helpful. It honestly, for this paper, for the argument paper, it would be better not to use any sources and to just have sources dropping from the sky and there's no context for them and the reader doesn't understand why they're even there or what they even mean, right? So it's understandable. Sometimes we're reaching for that next rung in the ladder and things can get a bit confusing, but it's kind of like if we were, I'm going to say post-COVID, and we're in the regular classroom, and there was a guest professor that was speaking, and if I was, the normal person that was there, and I didn't say anything, I just kind of sat down, and this other person starts talking, and you would be like, why is he there, and why is she sitting there, and who is this person, what's happening here? That's the same thing that if a quote just appears on your page and you don't know where it came from, like it dropped out of the sky, right? Or there's just like information there, not even a quote, it's just information, and then there's a source citation. You're like, where'd that come from? Who said it? What does it all mean, right? So you don't want your reader to be that confused. You need to introduce, like it would, if I was the professor in the classroom and I had a visiting professor, it would be helpful if I would introduce this person to the class, right? You need to introduce your reader to the quote. According to Susie Smith who wrote the article Vending Machines in America Today for Time magazine, Smith found that many parents were opposed to these vending machines being in public schools. Fine, right? That's my explanation. Then I have whatever the quote is, right? And then I cite the source, right? 3-step process. Explain the quote, give the quote, cite the source. Explain, give the quote, cite the source. All 3 steps needed, all right? You've got to cite parenthetically. The only time you are not citing parenthetically is according to MLA 8 that we are in now. You've got to give the full name of the author, first and last name, complete title of the article, complete title of the publication. By the time you have done all those things, you might as well just cite that source parenthetically. Because what I find is people don't do all those things. They tend to just give the name of the publication or the article or the author, but not all 3. Okay? So if you're not going to do all those things, you just should cite parenthetically. No one's ever going to count you wrong that I know of for citing parenthetically, but we will count you off for not citing parenthetically if you need to. So, all right. Very good. There are great models in the textbook for all essays. Oh, I'm going to tell you one more thing. You should be doing MLA formatting correctly by this time. By this time, that is just, it should be second nature at this point. So, there's many sample papers in the book. I'm going to point you to one on page 457. Right here, top left-hand corner, your name, the professor's name, the title of the class, the date. Notice the margins, the 1-inch margin from the top and the side. On the right corner, your last name and the page number. The right corner one goes on every page, okay? So this is how your papers should be set up. They should not be set up in any other way. This should be second nature by now. So if I'm telling you in the corrections what you should do for MLA formatting, you should follow that, because yes, I'm going to count off for that, and I already am counting off for that. I've told you like all the time, this is MLA formatting, right? You got to do that. My dog's howling at the fire engines. All right, so those are the things that either came up the most or came up significantly that I know this, you really need to put the energy into this to get the most points back. If you can revise the paper wherever you are, if you're just trying to get a few more points, or if you need really a major overhaul on it. If it went significantly awry, you might consider just starting over with a new document. Just take your same topic, take the suggestions I made, and and just using that as a reference point. All right, very good. Thank you.